Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Welcome to the Get Published podcast. My name is Paul Brodie, and I am proud to serve as your host. And now we are talking about our second episode of 2021, and we're going to talk a little bit more about day 3 and day 4 of the Get Published Summit that we're doing this week. So if you want to check out our summit to get a free ticket, you can go to thegetpublishedsummit.com. Again, that is thegetpublishedsummit.com to get your free ticket. And if you want to upgrade to get the premium pass, you're welcome to do so. The premium pass includes transcripts of all the talks, MP3 audio files, and lifetime access to all the videos. So I want to talk a little bit about Wednesday speakers, because if you go ahead and get your ticket today, you can still watch yesterday's talks, and you can also watch Thursdays. So on day 3, we had Derek Depker talking about engaging with your email list. And I think it's a challenge because it's difficult to build a list, right? It's a challenge to do that. But a bigger challenge is to engage with that list, to build relationships. And Derek is one of the absolute best in doing this and utilizing engagement strategies to turn subscribers into clients. He also covers how to connect with influencers effectively for long-term business relationships. Michelle Culp talks about writing 12 books in a year. That's right. Over the past year, she published over 12 books. And she's going to talk about how to make real money with book royalties. Because I think that's a big challenge, is how do you make money with royalties? Well, you're going to have to invest in some sort of advertising. It's a spoiler. You have to. Because the way Amazon is right now, you have to invest for long-term advertising, and you just have to. It's just part of the game. Brian Burney, speaking of great Amazon ads, we take a deep dive into both Amazon ads and BookBub ads. And basically what we do is he talks about how to create successful Amazon ads and BookBub ads to generate royalties for your book. And then he also covers how ACOS works, the 3 things you need for a great ad, click-through rates, sales rankings, ideal price points for Kindle and paperback, and box sets. This is an awesome session. We took a deep dive with Brian because I wanted to get as much information as possible for our attendees. Ray Brem, my business partner at Virtual Summits, he talks about virtual summits for authors and how to utilize virtual summits to grow your author business and brand. He also talks about how you can create a highly engaged email list of thousands of subscribers. And I will tell you, with this summit alone, we already have over 3,000 subscribers taking part in this, and it's huge. We talk about generating thousands of dollars through premium pass sales. I can tell you right now, our summit has done over $10,000. It works. We're also going to talk about how to leverage your book for your core offer while building long-term relationships with influencers. And to me, that is the greatest benefit of virtual summits, is creating those long-term relationships and friendships with influencers. Jen Stevens, if you are familiar with intermittent fasting, Jen is the guru with this. And one of the things that Jen has done is she has built an audience of roughly 500,000 on Facebook, and she leveraged that. She leveraged that huge Facebook community to become a New York Times bestselling author, and she talks about her journey with that. And then Anita, she talks about the benefits of taking part in multi-author book collaborations. And then we go into day 4. So now we talk about today's sessions. And as you see, there's a lot of sessions in this. One of the things that I did my very best at was to make these interviews as efficient as possible. So many of them are between 20 and 30 minutes. Some are a little bit longer, just depending on what exactly, how deep we went in the conversation. But going into Thursday, Ashley Emma, which if you're familiar with her Amish fiction series, she's really done a brilliant job with it. And she talks about how the riches are in the niches, right? And she talks about niching down with your book and the main differences with building an author business in fiction versus nonfiction. Gundi Gabrielle talks about how to turn your books into a 6-figure passive income machine. And she talks about exactly how she generates those multiple six figures through both her royalties and then also with the coaching program that she has. And then Sheriff Mark Lamb, the good sheriff, is actually a client of mine. I love him. He's one of the greatest clients we've ever had, just an awesome guy. And we had a great conversation about how him and his wife Janelle were able to turn their books into the foundation of their business platform and really take a deep dive into that. We talk about how he used it to generate significant income on his website, on book sign-ins, and how he leveraged his Twitter and Facebook following of roughly over 300,000 highly engaged subscribers for his launch and beyond. And we also talk about not being afraid to be a little bit polarizing. Sheriff is a strong personality, and that's what I love about him. He has his convictions, he sticks to them. And we talk about that. We talk about the fact that not everyone's going to necessarily like that. And we talk about some of the haters, really, because we're all going to have those. And especially when you have a strong personality with strong views. And we take a dive into that during our conversation. And then another client, Sean Johal. Now, we helped Sean with his virtual summit, and we talked about how he built an audience before launching his first book. And what happened with Sean, he actually pushed his book back because he wanted to do the summit first to build his audience, and then basically talked about how he grew his email list quickly, and then talked about building those long-term relationships again, because that is a recurring theme with this. It's all about building those relationships. And then we have our one and only book illustrator as part of the summit, Kyrie Ferrara, and she talks about increasing sales through illustrations, and it doesn't matter what genre it is. Fiction, nonfiction, children's books, anything. But talking about how to increase sales through book illustrations. So Karen talks about how having illustrations in your book is a powerful way to increase the value of your book. And I want to talk about tomorrow just briefly, because we've got some great speakers for Fridays. We wrap it up. Derek Kenny talks about how to create a partnership model for getting on media. And you want to talk about a guy who launched a monster podcast. Derek talks about how he utilized this partnership model to launch his new podcast. And he's had guests like Matthew McConaughey, Damon John, Michael Hyatt, Michael Gerber, Peter Shankman. So it's a great interview where we take a little deeper dive into that process. And again, all about creating those partnerships. Scott Miller with Franklin Covey talks about writing your book with a proven system. And we also talk about the importance of writing shorter books, especially in nonfiction. And he shares his book writing system to help finish your book. And then he also talks about why showing vulnerability is critical to the success of your book to connect with your readers. Alex Straffi is our third and final Amazon ads expert. Alex is still relatively new to this area, but he has gained results quickly. He also does the ads for Michelle Culp. So he's going to show how you can make successful Amazon ads as long as you commit time each day to creating new ad campaigns. And that's something that Brian Burney talked about, Mark Recklow talked about. It all connects with that, but you have to do the work. Derek Murphy talks about guerrilla marketing and publishing tactics for nonfiction and fiction books. Now, this was by far my longest interview. Derek and I talked for almost an hour. The goal was 20 minutes, and then it just expanded like the Marvel Universe. So Derek covers a wide range of topics with a focus on guerrilla marketing, guerrilla publishing tactics for your book. He also covers additional topics, including why you should still have a blog. That's right, I said it. Why you should still have a blog on your website, and what you should have in non-fiction and fiction covers for maximum conversion. Again, this was by far our longest session, but the value that Derek gave during that conversation was incredible. And then Ray Brem comes back on for a bonus talk. So we had 4 sponsors with the summit: Brodie Consulting, the Virtual Summit System, BCG Publishing, and then the co-author project. So Ray talks a little bit about the co-author project, gives a demonstration about the process, and then he also has a special offer for attendees in case you would like to take part in a multi-author book collaboration. And then we have closing session. So in the GPS expert session at the end, closing session, I basically recap what's going on in the summit, and then we're talking about next steps. And one of the things that I received in terms of feedback very early was, well, Paul, why don't you have a session? I'm like, well, I want to feature the speakers. It's not about me, it's about them. I'm like, well, we'd really like to hear about your story and journey. So I said, all right, fine. What I'll do in closing session is we'll make it a hybrid where we're going to talk about the recap. We're going to remind people about the premium pass because that's going to expire on Sunday night. And we'll also talk about how all the sessions are going to be unlocked. With being a publisher, of course, we give an invitation if people would like to set up a strategy session with us, and whether that's with publishing their book or marketing their book. And then a question I always get is, how long does it take for us to publish a book? 90 days. How long does it take to market a book? 1 month. So I always like to be very clear about those time frames. So we talk about that a little bit, but we're really talking about the journey, the struggle, and I talk about why it took me 4 years to get my own book out. So when I'm talking about practice what you preach, I live it because I wasn't afraid to take the plunge. I realized done is better than perfect, and that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first steps by Lao Tzu, one of my favorite quotes. So that basically recaps everything that's going to be going on within the next couple of days. Again, it's a ton of sessions, but I highly recommend it. Grab your free ticket. If you want the premium pass, great. And if you just want the free ticket, go check it out, because I can guarantee you that there will be information in here that will help you with getting your book out there, with sharing your story. If you're struggling to build a list, we have some information to help you. If you wanted to engage with your list, we have that information. Connected with influencers, utilizing virtual summits, utilizing Amazon ads, utilizing your book for the back end. All these pieces are part of the Get Published Summit. So if you want to check it out, go to thegetpublishedsummit.com. And again, we're going to be running until Friday, and then we are unlocking all the sessions for Saturday and Sunday. So as I always say, guys, I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead. Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.